title. Welcome everybody to contests. You can be or you can choose. And let me just get started here. You can be the champion if you're a contestant, or you can choose the champion if you're a judge. And there are other roles in the contest besides. Let's begin with how to do a contest. Preparation is the key. There is nothing more important than preparing for the contest. I have what I call Gittel's 7 steps to prepare for contests. And I know some of you are going to laugh when you hear these, but I'm deadly serious. So here they are. Step 1, read the speech contest rule book cover to cover. Step 2, oh, and here's the rule book. You know that it's the current one because it has, oh, what happened to the, okay, whatever. You know it's the current one because it has Verity Price's picture on the cover and it has the date. And always make sure you get the current rule book. That's important because things do change. Step 2 is read the speech contest rule book cover to cover again. And step 3, reread the portions that apply to you. If you're a contestant, if you're a judge, if you're the contest chair, there will be certain sections of the rule book that you need to be aware of. So reread those sections. The next few steps have to do with online and hybrid contests. Read the online and hybrid speech contest best practices cover to cover. And then step 5 is read it again. And step 6, you might have guessed already, read the parts of the online and hybrid speech contest best practices that are for you specifically. And then step 7, go back and read the speech contest rule book cover to cover again. And this year, I added an 8th step. And that is read the speech contest rule book explanation of changes. Why did I add that? Because of a quite drawn out conversation on Facebook. Somebody looked at the rule book and it says here, in addition, to be eligible to compete in the International Speech Contest, a member must have earned certificates of completion in levels 1 and 2 of any path in the ToastMasters Pathways Learning Experience or earned a Distinguished Toastmaster Award. Some of you who have been Toastmasters for a while probably realize there's something that's different. And that is this year, you can no longer use 6 projects from the CC manual to qualify to compete. And somebody saw this and thought they left it out. Was that intentional? Did they leave it out by accident? And so he asked on Facebook. I'm going to say he. I don't know if it was a he or a she. So he asked on Facebook and somebody said, no, you can still use the 6 CC speeches. It's in the certification of eligibility because Toastmasters forgot to update it, but they have since updated it. And then somebody else said, no, if it's not in the rule book, then it's not true. And then somebody says, well, it's still in the FAQs. This went back and forth. This all could have been not even happening. You see that little symbol? When you see that in the rule book, it means that there's a rule change. So anybody should look at this, and if he says, why doesn't it say the 6 CC speeches? Oh, there's a rule change. But then you can look at the explanation of rule changes. And it's in 3 columns. The first column is last year's rule. The second column is this year's rule. And the third column is the explanation. And if we zoom in, we can see they have crossed out completed 6 speech projects in the Competent Communication Manual, or. That's been struck out, and here it explains why. And the reason is, for 2 years now, Pathways has been the only program. And that's plenty of time for people to have completed levels 1 and 2. A lot of people say you have to complete level 2. You have to complete levels 1 and 2. Since you can work in Pathways at whichever level projects you feel like it, it has to be levels 1 and 2. Completing level 2 without level 1 is not good enough. Now, how do we progress through the contests? The winner of the club contest proceeds to the area contest. If an area has 4 or fewer clubs, the top 2 contestants proceed to the area contest. This is not carved in stone. This is up to each district to decide. And in District 109, and I believe all of us are here from District 109, that is the rule. The top 2 proceed to the area contest. The winner of the area contest proceeds to the division contest. Again, if the division has 4 or fewer areas, the top 2 contestants proceed to the division contest. The winner of the division contest proceeds to the district contest. If a district has 4 or fewer divisions, the top 2 contestants proceed to the district contest. Here in District 109, we have more than 4 divisions, so that doesn't apply. All except for the international speech contest end at the district level. Here in District 109, we have table topics and evaluation, in addition to the international speech contest. If you win at table topics or evaluation at the district level, that's it, you're finished. You're the district champion. Enjoy it. For the international speech contest, we go on. The winner of the district contest proceeds to the region quarterfinals. The winner of the region quarterfinals proceeds to the semifinals, and the winner of the semifinals proceeds to the finals of the World Championship of Public Speaking. Who can compete? And now I'm going to be talking about club contests mainly, not area, division, or district contests. Who is eligible? For all contests, you have to be a paid member of the club in which you are competing, and the club must be in good standing. What does it mean the club must be in good standing? Anybody know? You can just shout out the answer. Anybody?
You meet regularly? Oh, sorry.
You have to have X amount of members all paid up.
Yes, and what is that X?
About 8. No,
8, very good.
8, yeah.
Yes, the club has to have at least 8 paid members. For the international speech contest, as we said, you have to have completed levels 1 and 2 of any path or earn the DTM award. That's the only award from the old program that still qualifies you, the DTM. Members of more than one club can participate in each club. So you can participate as much as you want. Now, who is not eligible? This is a much longer list. The international officers and directors, the region advisors and applicants, district officers who are currently officers, international officer and director candidates, immediate past district directors, district officers or candidates for the next term beginning July 1st, the voting judge, tie-breaking judge, or chief judge at the same contest type in which they would be competing. What does contest type mean? Anybody? If you're raising your hand, I can't see you.
Table topics, international, and
Right.
evaluation.
Right. So if you are competing in the table topics contest, for instance, you can't be a voting judge, tie-breaking judge, or chief judge at a table topics contest. You could be one at the evaluation contest. The timer, ballot counter, sergeant at arms, or other contest official at the same contest in which they would be competing. That should be obvious. If you're competing, you can't have one of these other positions. What would you do? Well, I'm going to be the timer now, but then when it's my turn to compete, somebody else will take over. Doesn't work. You can't be an official and a competitor at the same contest. The presenter of an education session, contest chair, contest toastmaster, or event committee chair for the event at which the contest will be held. A lot of, well, certainly at the district, but a lot of divisions and areas will also hold a conference, or they will hold some kind of event with speakers, with a keynote speaker and some workshops and the contest as part of that. So if you are presenting at that event, then you can't compete in the contest. And the past winner of the World Championship of Public Speaking is no longer eligible. Once you reach that level, you're done. You've won. That's it.
For life or just that
For life.
next year?
For life.
Okay.
And members may not participate in the same contest type in more than one area. So this happened in our club last year. We had somebody who did not compete in, I think it was evaluation. I said, why aren't you competing? Said, in my other club, I'm at the area level, so I won't be able to compete at the area level in this one. So if you're a member of clubs that are in different areas, you can compete in only one area, not both. But you can compete in, say, international in one area and evaluation in a different one. Just can't be the same contest type. Now let's look at the various role players. And this is going to be an overview. We'll get into the specifics in a little bit. So what are the different roles? There's the contest chair, the chief judge, the voting judge. How many voting judges do you need? Anybody? At the club level, I'm talking about.
4?
A minimum of 5.
5, okay.
Yes, a minimum of 5. Plus a tie-breaking judge and a ballot counter. How many ballot counters do you need?
It's a chief judge and 2 ballot counters.
Yes, 2 ballot counters. Timers, how many timers?
2.
2, very good. And sergeant at arms. How many sergeants at arms do you need?
Depends if it's hybrid or in person or
Very good.
online.
You need 1 in person, 1 online, and if it's hybrid, you need 1 of
2.
each. Yes. You need a test speaker for the evaluation contest and a contest toastmaster that's optional. So what do all these different people do? Let's start with the contest chair, a very important role. The contest chair has to be, what's the rule? Who can be the contest chair? Any paid member. That's it. As long as you paid your dues, you can be a contest chair. And what do you do as the contest chair? You appoint a chief judge and you find volunteers to fill all these roles: ballot counters, timers, sergeant at arms, test speaker, the optional contest toastmaster, and you can assist the chief judge in finding voting judges. You have to keep track of who wants to compete. You have to verify the eligibility of all the contestants. How do you do that? You go to, this is in Club Central, resources and reports. You click on eligibility assistant, and that will bring up this screen. You search for a member, you put in the member's ID, and this pops up. I've blacked out all the identifying information. I like to keep people's information private. But as you can see, this person is paid up and the club status is active. So this person is eligible for all the contests. But what about international? If you look at the club roster, you see this person has completed presentation mastery level 5. Obviously, if he's completed level 5, he's completed 1 and 2. Actually, this person's a she. So she is definitely eligible. But what about when you have somebody like this? Persuasive influence level 1. You might think this person isn't eligible, but I happen to know this is not the person's first path. He already completed a path. This is his second one. So in a case like this, where it looks as if the person has not completed levels 1 and 2, check with the VPE to make sure, because you don't want to disqualify somebody who is eligible. Yafit?
Also the first one with level 5,
Yes.
could it be that this person just did level 5 or 4
No.
and 5?
No, in base camp, you can complete levels out of order, but in Club Central, which is what appears on the roster, it has to be done in order.
Okay.
That's a very good question. What else does, yes?
You said they've completed, the second person
Uh-huh.
done P1 level 1, and you know that they have done another level 1 in
He did
another path.
He did a whole path. He completed an entire path. All
the
5
entire
levels.
path up to 5.
Yes,
Ah, okay, all right. I
Yes.
misunderstood. Okay.
yes, yes. Okay. After verifying the eligibility, you have to provide the proper forms to all the pertinent parties and make sure the paperwork is submitted on time. And you brief the contestants and set the speaking order. And we're going to talk about that when we talk about the briefing. Also, you run the contest if you're the contest chair, although the contest Toastmaster could handle most of this role. You don't have to, you can do all the behind the scenes work and then let someone else take over to be the Toastmaster of the evening. That's the contest chair. Now let's look at the chief judge. Who can be the chief judge? Anybody?
Any paid member?
Exactly, yes. Any paid member can be the chief judge. But what does the chief judge do? Find volunteers to be judges, and the contest chair can assist with this. Brief the voting judges, the ballot counters, and the timers. Select and brief a tie-breaking judge. Why didn't I include the tie-breaking judge as with the other briefing? It's
because he's supposed to be a secret.
You've done your homework. Yes, the tie-breaking judge is secret. Nobody knows who the tie-breaking judge is except for the chief judge. Last year, I was chief judge at a contest, and I didn't tell anybody who the tie-breaking judge was, obviously, but we had a spreadsheet that listed all the role players. So I put the tie-breaking judge by the initials to remind me, because I would forget who I said it would be the tie-breaking judge, but nobody else would be able to identify by the initials because it was somebody from outside of our area, outside of our district, in fact. Now let's talk about paperwork. This is the certification of eligibility, and each contestant has to complete one of these and is supposed to complete one for each contest. Most clubs I know say just do it once and check off more than one box. It's very important to make sure it says, I know it's hard to read, revised 11/2022, because until they revised it, and I have to tell you, I called Toastmasters International and told them to fix it. It still said the 6 CC speeches made you eligible. So make sure you have the current one that doesn't have that. And it's very important to make sure that every contestant does one of these. Every contestant also has to fill out the speech contestant profile. And this really is very important because at the top you have the demographic information and who really cares. The speech title, you need to know that. Any notable accomplishments or awards, but this is the really important part. The interests and hobbies, what inspires you the most, what is your favorite quote? At the contest, you are going to interview, if you are the contest chair, each of the contestants. And when you have this information, you can ask questions about this. You can say, oh, I see that one of your hobbies is snowboarding. How did you get into that, considering that you live in Hawaii? You know? So that would be an interesting question. I was at a contest where the contest chair asked every contestant the same question. Boring, very boring. Make sure you ask each contestant questions about themselves. This is a judge's guide and ballot. This particular one is for the International Speech Contest, which it says at the top, and make sure you have the correct ballot because they're different. Each contest has its own ballot because different criteria are scored differently. This one is the tie-breaking judge's ballot. And what's different is at the bottom, instead of just first, second, and third place, the tie-breaking judge lists all 10 contestants in order, because that is going to determine who wins in the event of a tie. And now let's talk about briefings. When should the briefings be held? Any ideas? I'll give you a hint. Sometime before the contest.
I was just going to say a month before the contest, isn't it?
Oh, no.
No.
People
A
don't even
week?
sign up for the contest before
Yeah.
a month in advance.
A few
Some-
days, 2 days.
Some clubs do it immediately before the contest. We say we're starting at 4 o'clock, and then everybody shows up at 4 o'clock, and they say, okay, now we're going to have our briefings. And everybody who's not a role player or a contestant just sits there and twiddles their thumbs while everybody else is in a breakout room for a briefing. Other clubs might do it a little bit better and say, we're having briefings at 4 o'clock and we're starting the contest at 5. I like it even better to do it a day or two ahead of time so that it doesn't interfere with the contest itself at all. What happens at the contestants' briefing? Okay, the contest chair goes over all the rules for the contestants, lets them know what they are allowed to do, what they're not allowed to do. They really should know this by the time they're getting ready to compete, but it doesn't hurt to go over it. And an important thing is to go over the timings. There are 5 different types of contests in Toastmasters. And each district is able to do up to 4 different contests of their choice, international speech plus 3 others. So for the international speech contest, what is the timing? How many minutes?
5 to 7.
5 to
5
7.
to,
Yeah.
5 to 7. There's a 30-second grace period at both ends. So the person has to speak for a minimum of 4 minutes and 30 seconds and a maximum of 7 minutes and 30 seconds. Less than that, they're disqualified. More than that, they're disqualified. What about humorous speech? What's the timing for humorous speech? In our district, we rarely do it, so nobody knows. But it is also 5 to 7 minutes. Again, there's a 30-second grace period at both ends. 4 minutes and 30 seconds minimum, 7 minutes and 30 seconds maximum. What about tall tales?
I think 5 minutes.
3 to 5 minutes. Again, 30-second grace period. 2 minutes and 30 seconds to 5 minutes and 30 seconds. And what about
What is tall tales?
tall tales? It's basically telling a lie. You have to make up a story. About the time I was fishing at a trout pond and suddenly I caught a great big white shark. Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. But you have to make it believable.
Right.
Right. Okay. What about the evaluation contest?
2 to 3?
2 to 3, just like in the club, 2 to 3 minutes. Again, 30-second grace period. 1 minute, 30 seconds to 3 minutes, 30 seconds. What about table topics?
1 to 2.
1 to 2.
1 to 2. There is a 30-second grace period at the end, not at the beginning. This is the only one that doesn't have that 30 seconds at the beginning. The contestant must speak for a minimum of 1 minute. I was chief judge at a contest, at a table topics contest. One of the contestants finished speaking and I didn't see the green light go on, did I? I don't think so. I sent a message to the timer. I said, how long did this person speak for? And it was, I think, 46 seconds. I thought, oh, I have to disqualify this person. What a shame. And then a little voice in my head said, I wonder if she was briefed correctly. And before I had a chance to ask the contest chair if he had done the briefing properly, he sent me a message and said, there's a 30-second grace period for table topics at the beginning too, right? I said, no, there isn't. So in this case, what would you do?
Well,
You
because
have
they
to
haven't
pass
been, because they
her.
haven't been briefed correctly. She was coming in with the incorrect. I would not disqualify her.
Okay. Any other suggestions?
Yeah, to do a rerun
Okay, how?
at the end of everything,
Uh-huh.
and she would have to have a different topic.
Okay, but what about, how is that fair if she has a different topic? So he said, what do I do? Do I have her go again? I said, no, you have everybody go again with a new question. It was there weren't that many contestants, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But there are other accidents that could happen. So it's good to have an extra table topics question in your pocket for something like that. Also at the briefing, we choose the speaking order. I like to, if you're in person, it's simple. You have little pieces of paper that have numbers on them. And you hold them up so they can't see it, and each one draws a number, and that's the speaking order. If you're online, it's not that difficult. There are all kinds of randomizers online. I happen to like Picker Wheel, which I will show you. But there are so many different randomizers. This one I happen to like, it's very easy. You have the people's name, you just type in the names here. So we can type in the next person's name, put a capital, and the next person's name, however many people you have. And then you spin. And it will tell you who it lands on. Sometimes it looks like as if it's on the line, but this is Barbara. When you click on, after you do that, you click on hide choice. And you see Barbara's gone from the wheel and she's no longer checked here. And write it down. Make sure you keep the list because you can't be expected to remember the order of all these people. At one briefing I was at, instead of clicking hide choice, the person kept clicking done. If you just click done, you see Denise is still there. She's still here. So then you would have to uncheck her. So make sure you click hide choice. That's picker wheel, but there are other randomizers you can use. It doesn't have to be that one. I just happen to like that one. I keep going to the other screen. I forget to hit share screen. Not nice of me. So that is the contestants briefing. What happens at the briefing for the judges, the ballot counters, and timers? Anybody know? You go over the rules.
Yeah.
You go over the rules. You show them the ballots. Let's take a good look at this one. Up at the top, you write in the names of the contestants in order. Now, you might not be able to do that at the briefing. You might not do that till the contest starts and the contest chair announces the order. But you see here, you have all the different criteria and the point values, and I'm sorry, it's hard to read, and the different point values. So as each speaker speaks, you can assign point values based on how they did for each criterion. And then after they're finished, they total up the points, and then they write in first, second, and third place contestants. How do they determine which one came in first, which one came in second, and which one came in third?
The person with the highest score.
One would
Comes
think so.
first. Yeah.
That you would think that, but no, that's not how it works.
This is the lowest. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's not the lowest score either. Those scores, as if you're a judge, you put in those scores to help you to remember how the person did in each of the different criteria. But you choose whoever you want to be first, second, and third. It has nothing to do with the scores. First of all, that's the real rule. It has nothing to do with it. And second of all, nobody would know anyway, because nobody else sees the top part of the ballot and it gets destroyed. I was at a contest. I was, I believe, the Zoom master for that contest. There were 3 contestants. One contestant spoke absolutely beautifully, very polished, very well done. In my opinion, she should have come in first. She came in third out of the 3 contestants. Why? Because if you look at the ballot, you get the most points for speech. I forgot what it's called, but they want inspirational or persuasive speeches, things like that. Hers was entertaining, but it was very, very good. I would have given her first, even if she didn't get a lot of points for the inspirational speech part. But that's me. This is the ballot counters tally sheet. And this is something else that at the briefing, they would show the ballot counters. The names of the contestants go here. Once again, in order. And the name of each judge goes here. And then for each contestant, whoever the judge gives first place to, you put a 3. 3 points for first place, 2 points for second place, and 1 point for third place. At the end, these are all totaled up. And this is where those scores do make a difference, because this is solely on the scores. And at the bottom, you would enter the first place winner, the second place winner, and the third place winner. When they're announced at the contest, they're announced in reverse order. And here we have the timers sheet. The name of each contestant, the minutes, and the seconds. There are, here's a little closer, there are 2 timers. Why are there 2 timers?
To make sure, just to make sure it's correct.
If you look at the rule book, it says one has the stopwatch and the other controls the timing lights. And how do you control the timing lights if you don't also have a stopwatch? So, or maybe, I think it refers to people who are sitting, 2 timers sitting next to each other. So one clicks the stopwatch and the other hits the lights. They should both fill out the minutes and seconds. Generally, it's not going to make a difference, but it's good to have a backup just in case. And now we are at the contest itself. What happens at the contest? Let's look at the International Humorous and Tall Tales contest. They're very similar. The contest chair or contest toastmaster, and from now on, I'm just going to say contest chair and just know that it could be the toastmaster, welcomes everybody, announces that the contestants and role players have been briefed, and announces the order in which the contestants will appear. The contest chair introduces the first contestant. How is the contestant introduced?
Name, title of speech and name.
Yeah.
Name, title, name.
Name.
Oh.
Yes. John Smith, what I learned on my trip to the South Pole. What I learned on my trip to the South Pole, John Smith.
Okay.
There are no other introductions. If in your club you give a more lengthy introduction, John Smith took a trip to the South Pole and it was very exciting. And tonight he's going to tell us all about it. You do not do that at a contest. Name, title, name, that's it. After the first contestant, the contest chair calls for 1 minute of silence. What happens during the 1 minute of silence?
The judges fill up their scores.
The judges, yes, they fill out their ballots. And nobody talks. I was a judge at a contest. And after the first contestant, the chair forgot to ask for 1 minute of silence. What do you do if you're a judge and the chair forgets to ask for that minute of silence?
You asked for it.
You remind? Yeah.
Yes, excuse me, can we please have 1 minute of silence? And then, of course, it was, oh, I'm sorry, yes, 1 minute of silence for the judges to mark their ballots. And while the judges are marking their ballots, no, silence means silence. It means the contest chair also does not talk. So make sure you get that. And then
So
after
then
that, yes.
the timer takes that 1 minute, or is it the chief?
It's the
chair.
timer, but if the contest chair is nice, he or she will ask the chief judge, are the judges ready to continue? Don't have to do that, but it's a nice thing to do. And then the contest chair introduces the next contestant. Repeat steps 3 and 4 until all the contestants have finished. That's International Humorous and Tall Tales. Oh, and then after that, the contest chair calls for silence. And this silence lasts until the chief judge says that all the ballots have been collected, because that sometimes takes more than 2 minutes. The chief judge, the timers, and the ballot counters exit into the counting room. And the contest chair begins the contestant interviews. What happens if you have, say, international contest and tall tales? You're doing international you're doing tall tales first, international second. The Tall Tales contests have finished. Can the chair interview all the contestants?
No.
No,
No.
the chair can interview all those contestants who are not competing in the other contest. But if somebody's competing in more than one contest, you cannot interview that person until after he or she has competed in all the contests. At the end, the winners are announced in reverse order: third place, second place, first place. What about the table topics contest? What happens at that contest? It starts out the same, with the same announcements. But then the sergeant at arms and all the contestants, except for the first, leave the room. The contest chair introduces the first contestant. How is that contestant introduced?
Only by name?
Name, table topics question, table topics question, name. So, Mary Jones, what do you think your country should do to combat climate change? What do you think your country should do to combat climate change? Mary Jones.
And
while
by
we're on
that,
this
they
subject-
actually,
I'm sorry,
it's the
what?
first time. So by that, the contestant knows what the question is. Like that's the first time that
Yes,
the,
as right before he or she speaks.
yeah.
Yes, yes. And this is a good time to ask, what's a good table topics question?
More of a general question rather than something really specific where the language might be, somebody doesn't know the language or something.
Yes, it should be general. It should not be something that you need specific knowledge for. Don't ask a question about Harry Potter. Not everybody has read Harry Potter or seen the movies. So make it something that everybody should know, and it should elicit an opinion. I was at a table topics contest. I was a contestant at a table topics contest, and the question was, a fool and his money are soon parted. Is that a question? Now, you could make that a question. A fool and his money are soon parted. How do you think that applies in your life? Something like that. You need to have a question. And I was a judge at a contest, and the table topics question was blue. Just the word blue. Can you imagine?
Glue the color or glue the sticky stuff?
Blue, the color.
Blue color.
Blue. Can you imagine having to answer that question? So make sure you have a good question. After the first contestant, again, the chair calls for 1 minute of silence, introduces the next contestant, repeats steps 4 and 5 until all contestants have finished, calls for silence. The chief judge, the timers, and the ballot counters exit into the counting room. Contestant interviews, winners are announced. The winners don't have to be announced at the end of each contest. If you have more than one contest at your event, you can save the announcement of winners until the end. For table topics, our winners are blah, blah, blah. And for evaluation, our winners are, and then announce them. Okay, at the evaluation contest, what happens?
Same introductions.
Same introduction. And then the contest chair introduces the test speaker. Who should be the test speaker?
So somebody who's a distinguished speaker who can actually present a speech in a either very fast or put in errors so that the people who are evaluating have different things to evaluate
Yes.
or no gestures or something.
Yes. Well, ideally, it should be somebody who none of the contestants know. Somebody they've never heard before. So they're all on an equal playing field. And it could be a very good speaker, or it could be a mediocre speaker. It doesn't really matter so much. As long as they all are equal. I was at a contest, I was the Zoom master for that contest. The test speaker was not only a member of the club, but the speech he gave was a speech that he had given at a meeting about a month or two before. So anybody who had heard that speech before was at an advantage over those who had missed that meeting. The following year, he was the test speaker again, but at least this time he gave a speech at least I hadn't heard before. So, yeah, not a good choice. After the test speaker finishes, the sergeant at arms and all the contestants leave the room, all of them, even the first contestant. The contestants are given 5 minutes to write notes and prepare their evaluation. During those 5 minutes, the contest chair can interview the test speaker. After 5 minutes, the contest chair introduces the first contestant. All the other contestants have to put their notes away. And when they're in a breakout room online, their hands have to be showing at all times so that they can't be playing with their phone down here. We need to know what they're doing. And their phones should not be in the room with them, or they should be off. After the first contestant, again, 1 minute of silence, introduces the next contestant, repeat 6 and 7 until all the contestants have finished. Contest chair calls for silence. The chief judge, timers and ballot counters exit into the counting room. Then the contest chair begins the contestant interviews. The winners are announced. One thing I didn't mention is during the briefing, I did sort of mention this. The tie-breaking judge is briefed separately. He's not briefed with all the other judges. I know somebody who was a chief judge at a contest, and he said he had the tie-breaking judge at the briefing and just said, if you're the tie-breaking judge, you do this, and if you're not a tie-breaking judge, you do that. That's not the proper way to do it. You should brief the tie-breaking judge separately.
So they're all briefed as judges, and then in addition to that, the
tie-breaking judge is totally separate.
but then they would know who he is or she is, no?
No, because he could just be a member of the audience. You'd never know.
Okay.
Okay. One thing that people do at contests, when they're announcing the winners, before they announce the names of the winners, they will say there were no disqualifications. Or they will say there was one disqualification due to time, something like that. And then I hear some judges, some contest chairs say the tie-breaking judge was not used. Now, it doesn't say to do that in the rule book, but I heard so many people do that I did it. And the program quality director said, oh no, do not do that. That is totally wrong. So do not announce whether or not the tie-breaking judge was used. Announce only if there's a disqualification. And don't say, John Smith was disqualified. Just say there was one disqualification. Nobody has to know who it is. And now we're going to talk about protests. They don't happen often, but they could. Who can lodge a protest?
Either a judge or a contestant.
Yes, a contestant or a voting judge can lodge the protest. And what are the grounds for a protest? There are 3. Okay.
There
Eligibility.
Mhm.
eligibility. I think that so-and-so didn't pay his dues, so he's not really eligible to compete. Or originality.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You are allowed to quote up to 25% of your speech, which is just over a minute. And if you do quote somebody, you have to cite the source. As Martin Luther King said, I have a dream. You can't just say, I have a dream. You need to say who said it. So you could protest. I know that person was using song lyrics that I've heard before, and he didn't say who the song came from. And then reference to another contestant's speech. You cannot refer to another contestant. As Yafit said in her speech, can't do that. There are very rarely protests, but they could happen, and you should know what to do. So now, are there any questions? And now I can see everybody. Wow, it's almost 8 o'clock.
Yeah, I have one question.
Sure.
When you talked about 0 to 4 clubs only send 2 contestants.
Yes.
So if there are more than 4, so if there are
It-
more than 4 clubs in the district, then what happens? They can send
Only
whoever?
only one contestant, only one winner.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Any other questions? Okay, let me just do another little check of attendance. So if anybody came in the middle and then left, they're out of luck. Okay, so thank you all for coming. Let me stop recording.